Good evening, citizens. My name is Ban Shattersong, former captain of the Bloody Hands Mercenary Company. And today we are not actually going to talk about Ban at all. Hello, it's Chris, and we're actually going to talk about Lindir Thornheart. Who's Lindir? You clearly are asking on your end of this microphone. Lindir is my brand new character. I say brand new, he's now got precisely one event tucked under his little belt, and he is the replacement for Ban Shattersong, the notorious and hardcore criminal that spawned this podcast. Lindir is very much a different character to Ban. He's arguably very naive, inexperienced, but fundamentally he's not a criminal and in quotes here, a good person. Now, the reason, just before we dive into the hots and knots for Lindir Thornheart at E3 this year, just wanted to explain a few things about him. The first off is that I made him in about 5 minutes after Ban died, so I could get back on the field at E2. And I thought, I've got my longbow with me. I haven't used it with Ban at all because he's using a crossbow instead. And well, why not make a little Archer, Ranger of Ithilien style character and just see how it goes. And I had loads and loads of fun with him on the Sunday of E2. So he stayed alive, and as we trundled up towards E3, I had a little bit of a decision to make. I think I actually made an episode about it. Was that if I wanted to continue with some of my let's say criminal aspirations and some of the plot that Ban kicked off, because there's a whole bag of it, I realistically would need to switch nations because I feel like on the whole there's no real social contract behind it. Of course, you can always play any character that you want to. However, I feel like playing Ban Shattersong and then rolling back as another Navari criminal who looks very, very similar is a bit of a piss take. You know, it's yeah, I'm basically just playing the same character again, and the whole death thing kind of didn't matter because, haha, I can come back and just be the same character with no real loss of progress, and just make up enough backstory that this new character knew everything that Ban did and was more senior in the gang and so on and so forth. So I didn't do that, of course. But then that presents a choice. The choice is to switch nation and play that character, the senior criminal who oversaw Ban, for example, perhaps from a Varishkan or League point of view with the Vieg. But then the other side of it was, well, why don't you just be good? For once, Chris, why don't you, for the love of God, just play a good character? No more chaotic evil, frankly, chaotic anything. Just try and be, if not lawful good, then neutral good, I guess. Um, sorry, is it lawful neutral? Gosh, I should know this. Anyway, yeah, so trying to actually play a good character, and I could safely say that playing that with Linda has been so much fun because now I've been able to actually talk to people that I've seen, OC and sort of at the end of events, but in character I can actually go places now. I can, sit around a fire and not have to worry about hiding from the militia or turning everything into an impromptu robbery, that kind of thing. And I've actually made loads of friends, and it sounds very cheesy, but it's been absolutely wonderful. So that is what I've gone with and stuck with for the end of E2 and E3. So, after that rambling intro, let's get on with Lindir Thornheart's Hots and Knots. Well, let's start with the knots, because as usual with these things, there's not too many. The first, it was actually quiet. Now, I know I've just spent the last 4 minutes and 22 seconds talking about the how lovely it was just to, be a good person, be able to sit around fires, make friends, etc. However, the downside of that is that the unbridled chaos that have been my events for the last, gosh, handful of years, um, was no longer the case. In fact, it got to some points on the Saturday later afternoon after a certain event that we will discuss today. But after that event had been wrapped up, I kind of thought to myself, huh, it's not really, there's not much for me to do. There's there's lots of things I can do, like let's go walk around the marches, or let's go chat to some people I've met, or see if there's a skirmish I can jump on, that kind of thing. But with Ban, it was right between 11:30 and 11:45. We've got to hold up this joint. We spend 30 minutes underground, and then we pop up again at 1:44 in the afternoon for a 1:45 arrival of a certain NPC, and then we hit them to crossbow, blah blah blah. Ban would have every single minute of his weekend planned out, and with Lindir, I still plenty to do, and I made myself a little list of things I wanted to try out. So I had every hour planned out. Would thoroughly recommend, by the way, make yourself a little quest book, very RuneScape or Warcraft-like, and just see what you get done in the weekend. The answer is none of it, but it always inspires you to do things, or makes you think, oh, what about that? And you get stuck in. Anyway, Lindir was quiet, and that was a bit of a knot for me because Larp is such with only 4 events a year, it's rare, and I feel like any downtime is not wasted time, but it's non-optimized time. And I know some people, they go to Empire, and it's a chill out, have a few beers in the evening, lounge around in the afternoon, chat to people, do some trading, and you know what? That game is fucking wonderful, and I loved it, and I did it with some of my earlier characters. But now I've got this relentless rat-like hunger to keep gnawing away at something important, and of course, rolling a new character in. I'm not important. Linda has to build that reputation up again and become important or iconic or of any worth, let's say. Absolutely not implying that Ban was important either, but some would like to think so. So anyway, my first knot is that it was quiet. It was hot-ish, I would say. The reality of that is it was very hot, a very hot weekend. But Lindir, another great thing about making a character in 5 minutes, doesn't wear armor. I'm trying to play Empire a little bit like, I don't know, Battlefield or Call of Duty, with the longbow, where if I get hit, I go down, but if I hit other people, they usually go down as well. I don't want to call it hard mode because hard mode in Empire is no armor with a dagger, but in terms of combat, of course. However, the 2 hit points and avoiding getting killed does make it very spicy, and also very cool because you're not wearing armor. Everyone else wearing armor, super sweaty, super hot, but for me it was a bit uncomfortable, but it wasn't sort of Saharan desert experience for me. So yeah, another knot is it was kind of hot. And this does lead into my third one, is that Lindir's war paint is awful to get off. Absolutely dreadful. If those of you who are listening go and check out Lindir Thornheart on Facebook, that's me, it's my character. It's a page just for my characters. You'll see the sort of distinctive black and red war paint, almost like a camo cam green line across his face. Now, I've done this so that I distinctly look different to Ban, because when I don't put any makeup on, any face paint, I look like Ban, especially if I wear a headscarf or anything that covers my head, like Ban used to, then I'm pretty much indistinguishable. And the idea was with that war paint, it's clearly a different character, and people don't they don't have a double take on me, as did happen at this event actually. So it just hammers forth that importance. But yeah, going to bed in this stuff, oh my god, I woke up in the morning and it smeared all over me. I looked like the red guy from Captain America. Not really a Marvel fan, but I think I've got the reference correct. Yeah, he really should go easy on the stuff. However, I usually use snaz with a bit of fixing spray, and frankly, that's good enough. This time I used alcohol-activated face paint, which is pretty cool. A little bit hit and miss with some colours, but overall, it's great for long-lasting. It's like a long-lasting effect. But God, the war paint I do in SNAS, and I woke up in the morning, my pillow is just this savaged mess alongside my face, and it takes hours to get off. Scrubbing that off in the shower. And then after the event, of course, I'm going to work, and I've still got bits of black underneath my eyes and red smudges, and it looks like I've been severely sunburned, but I haven't. So yeah, that's the only other knot. Am I going to stop doing it with Lindir? No. I love it. I think it looks fucking awesome. Alright then, onto the knots. In no particular order, although the detailed version coming up in the next section of this episode is going to be in order. But just the highlights, starting off with a new player. I think one of my most recent episodes was a new player coming with me to Larp, and essentially how do you help new players, and also how do you look after yourself, and what kind of things to expect. The reason I made that is because I brought Steve along with me. Steve is actually a friend of a friend I met online playing Arma 3. It's like a military simulation game, and a couple of years down the line, he's turned up to Empire. So it's a small, wonderful world, and it's great to take those Discord friends, those gaming friends, and bring them to something real. Steve had a fucking phenomenal time. He was almost in tears, and not real tears, but just a glazed look in his eye as we were leaving, and he went, "I don't think I'm ever going to do anything as cool again." Because your experiences might differ, but for me, when I first turned up to LARP, I was, at this point, I was thinking to myself, "Oh gosh, it's going to be a bunch of nerds in the field. It's going to be quite cringy," and of course, I was blown away by how professional, awesome, and fun it is, and of course, have continued to come. But just to see him have that realization again, it really awoke something in me, and that was just wonderful to see. And pretty much every day when we've been gaming, he said, "I can't wait to get back to Anvil Town." And yeah, what a moment, what a wonderful highlight for the event. Highlight number 2 is that the number 46 came out at E2 in terms of Lindir's arrow kills. I finally got up to 47. I say finally, it was a close run thing. It was actually thanks to the Dornish, as we were exiting the battlefield on the Saturday, that I got my 47th. It was, some could argue 46.5, but I'll take the full point. And to beat my record and have people cheering for me, and I remember running up to the monster screaming, "No, it's mine, it's mine! Let me kill it, let me kill it!" And this monster, he was just chuckling on the floor. He was having a great time as I was arguing with these Dornish knights, like, "It's mine, here, let me finish it. I've got a record to beat." And the monster was just having such a great time. And I mean, I was as well. The Dornish were having a good giggle, and yeah, really, really fun. Third big point, this is going to dominate the episode. I lost my memory due to certain events, and I've made a bunch of genuine new friends along the way. I actually ended up at a player event the weekend after E3, and I think it's entirely because this happened. And what a wonderful butterfly effect, butterfly effect to witness in real life. And from one simple accident, as you'll find out later, I've got another group chat on WhatsApp, so that's really cool. Point 4, bands, legacy, and newspapers. If anyone is a fan of the Inquiring Ink Cap, they would have seen that Van Shattersong had a spread in that, and what a fantastic tongue-in-cheek article that was. And all the I think the Oathwriter had another article on him as well this event, following on from last event, and just on an OC, IC, Lindir thinks like Ban is a bit of an idiot, and let's be real, he was. But OC, it does give me a little chuckle, and it very much warms my heart to see one of my characters still having an impact at this stage in the game, when he's been dead for technically 2 events now, or 1.5 really, and for people to still remember, that's awesome. Point number 5-ish, 5/6. The Imperial Elections, well, the Navari General Elections for Sailor's Dance and the Blackthorns. Not going to say anything more here, but oh boy, that was fun. I got to go on a skirmish with a new friend, Anwin Stormbroke, in in this event, and essentially what happened is I'll go into more detail later, but the usual gate clusterfuck happens where we bring 20 or 30 people and end up having like 10 slots. So luckily I got onto that skirmish, and we went in and basically got to beat the crap out of Gigantic Crab, and it was so much fun. So I don't know, it was one of the I've been on a lot of skirmishes throughout Empire, and I just really enjoyed this skirmish. If anyone's seen the photo I posted on my Facebook page like a few days ago, most of those come from the skirmish, and I'm just smiling in every single photo, and it's because I was having a great time. It was fucking awesome. Another hot is that this weekend was this weekend had some really good one-liners from Lindir, if I say so myself. I actually had one of the guys in Black Scar came up at the end of the weekend and said, "A, it's been a pleasure role playing with you," which was super heartwarming. But B, he said, "I think I've heard the funniest thing I've ever heard at Empire come out of your mouth," and I'll touch upon those later. But they were pretty good. I finally went to Uncle Regrezio's, let's call it bar, Uncle Regrezio's bar in the league, and I also got to go to the March Affair as well. And that was a lot of fun, and more details to follow. But what I wanted to mention as a hot here is that any national event, so like the Broken Wheel in the Brass Coast, the March Affair, and I think it's the festival. Is it the Festival of the Dead? Festival of the Reaper? I think it's something of the Reaper in the league. But the point is, any of these national events that are once a year, go to them. Go to them. See what it's like. Get stuck in. Loads of the players put in a lot of effort to make those things quite special, and they're really, really fun. So that's the highlight of my Hots&Nots. If you want to quit off now at this point, I don't blame you. It's going to be a relatively long episode, like at least another 40 minutes. But on the flip side, you're going to get all of the juicy little details of what I've got up to on an almost blow by blow basis. And that includes, miniature drum roll, the Thursday, secret insight into the pre-LARP day, the secret day, the fourth event that isn't, sorry, the 4-day event that only technically exists. Let's dive in to Thursday. First of all, tickets. Gosh, having tickets instead of quoting a PID and the poor gate staff having to check a list. Really, really good idea, PD. Great job. I'm sure there'll be some with QR codes in the future to make them more secure, but for now, tickets, great. The Woodland is getting very busy now as well. So in case you don't know, you can arrive on the Thursday, the day before the event officially starts, from 1 p.m. It's an extra fiver to camp overnight. I thoroughly recommend it. You get to hang out with your friends and you sort of pack up and pack down anything. Well, set up. Pack down comes at the end, but set up in your own pace. Enjoy seeing your friends and enjoy a leisurely afternoon in the field before it gets crazy. But what's happened in Navarre is over the long dark we've grown, and this year we've grown further, is that back in the old days when I could camp about 5 meters from the Songs and Stories circle, we're now right at the back of the woods, and it's full. There's tents everywhere, and we're pushing as much space as we can get out of this play area, which is frankly I know it's quite crowded, and the camp planners have a difficult task, but at the same time, just to see it so densely packed and lots of people feels super cool. Like walking around a campsite, especially an IC campsite, is awesome. But yeah, getting very busy now, but luckily Black Scar have their nice little corner at the back, and it suits us just right. There's I've got a note here that I don't envy the camp planners across the next 2 years, because I think with people like Steve getting involved this year, we're going to go through another wave of people coming for the first time, and then bringing one friend, then that person bringing another two friends, and then all of a sudden we'll have all these new stridings of, 5 to 10 people popping up all over the shop. And that's just in Navarre, let alone across the empire. So I don't envy them, but it does remind me of a physics teacher I had at school called Chris Ingram, like in grams as opposed to kilograms. Hilarious, right? And his favourite part of being the teacher in our school was that he actually got to do the teaching rota. So which class is in which room at which time. And it was kind of like a 3 or 4D Rubik's Cube, he used to describe it as. And I feel like he would be the guy for this planning across the next 2 years. He would love it. It's not relevant, but shout out Chris Ingram. What a guy. Okay, one more shout out for him. He used to run desert marathons. We would I used to do cross country as a sport, and he would come and train with us sometimes. And he is your classic physics teacher, right? But he would turn up in like 3 jumpers, 4 sets of socks, boots, jumpers, leggings, a backpack. I'm like, what on earth is going on? Because it's summer, it's like 22 degrees. We're all in shorts and t-shirts. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm just training for a desert marathon. And then he'd come back 4 or 5 hours later, absolutely drenched. He said, yep, I did it. And yeah, like it was the most casual thing in the world. Absolute unit, absolute unit. But anyway, back onto LARP. Um, a super chill night in the Forge. One of the things I managed to pick up was at random a Discworld hat. I can't quite remember the quote on it, but it's red gold lettering. Um, I found it, and I basically look after it now. And I sat there in the Forge with a bunch of Black Scar and a bunch of other randoms just having a chat and a little drink into the evening, and it was lovely. The hat brought in new friends, which is great, a bit of an icebreaker. And then we sat there talking about stuff, and I can't really define it better than that because it was just lovely just to lean back. And we finally got to one of the table sections in that place. I've never really sat down in the forge until now. I've always been stood up or outside. But yeah, it was lovely. But before we actually got fully into the sort of merriment, light drinking and chats in the evening, once again I got to go out to Dash Shop, which is one of the traders. They trade in both IC and OC terms. So, for example, I think you can go in there and sell. Let's say you got some spare kit, you might be able to sell it for like crowns or thrones. I've never actually done that, so don't quote me. But that's the impression I get and what I've heard. And of course, you can buy things for pound sterling as well. Now, well, I got the great fortune of getting two lovely selections added to my kit. The first was a set of aluminium chainmail arms, and the second was aluminium chainmail skirt. Now, aluminium is a lot lighter than steel, and I've only worn steel chainmail up until now, kind of thinking, Ali chain, is it really that different in weight? Because it's still, chain, it's heavy. The answer is yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Wow. Wearing aluminium versus steel. What a life improvement. My God. That stuff was awesome. I got it at a great price. And it's the thing with Dash Shop is it's full of random stuff. So, things like the Mythalon and Dark Blade things that you can get online. Those are great. They're very uniform and very sturdy. But if you go to Dash Shop, you can end up with some random stuff, and it might need patching up, or might have a few chainmail links missing. But if you do a bit of repair work on it, it's absolutely fine. And hell, most of the time it doesn't even need repairs. But yeah, these arms and skirt, mwah, very very happy with that. And also, if you go in there, you can get. It's where I got my brass costume, my brass coast costume for Ban when he did his last robbery at E2. And if you need any pouches, belts, that kind of thing, go and have a look at Dash Shop because you'll find something unique in there, and it's well, I can't recommend it more clearly. There is a certain bard that I shall leave nameless that I commissioned to write a song about Ban when Ban was still alive. In that letter, I promised, I said that there was a throne attached, and of course, because this was done over email, there was not a throne attached. Now, Band died, and it's taken me 2 events to finally get this bard their payment. And I finally managed to do that on Thursday night, and I feel very good about being the worst Lannister on the Anvil field. I always pay my debts, but 2 events late. And then final note for Thursday, turning off my phone and reclining back into the Larp verse. 100% for Thursdays. It's just, it everything's off. It's time to relax and get excited for the next day. So, on to Friday. Shower block, 10 out of 10 as usual. Showers at Empire used to be hit and miss, and frankly, I would go the whole weekend without showering. However, now they've got this purpose-built block. There's hot water, there's space, there's changing, and just I'm going to spare you all the graphic detail, but we all get sweaty when we're running around, and frankly, I especially need a wash after some of the battles we've done. So yeah, going in and just being able to get all the face paint off, get all the grime and dirt and sweat off. Ugh, lovely. Brilliant, brilliant shower block. Everyone starts to arrive on the Friday, sort of morning and afternoon. Those who haven't already come on the Thursday. And it's just nice to see them in dribs and drabs because when I used to arrive on sort of Friday evening around 5 o'clock, everyone was there and it'd be like, right, oh, hey, how's it going? Quick, get in your kit, let's go. But now as people arrive, you can say, hey, how's it going? Let me help with your tent. What have you been up to over the last 6 weeks? And all the people you don't socialise with between events, you get to have a chat to if you didn't catch them the night before. And it just, again, I guess it's the whole theme for Lindir. It's just super wholesome. I really appreciated just catching up with people and having a chat on the Thursday and Friday. Of course, the mandatory tour of Anvil. I make a point of it every single event, pre-timing to have a walk around and see if there's anything different. And this is typically picking out bars, seeing how camps have changed or grown, if there's set dressing or how many new banners there are around the Glory Square, for example. It's it's just nice. I don't think I noticed anything too different, but would always 100% recommend walking around on the Friday before time in and just seeing what's up. Next up, the Bardsteds. I talked just now about the going around seeing new things. One of those things, in my experience this year, has been the Bardsteds. They're a group of very, very talented musicians who trundle around Anvil playing music, and we had the pleasure of being camped on the opposite side of the fence to where they camp. So where I see their OC, and we got to hear them warming up, tuning up, and doing a little bit of practice. And just while we're we're hammering away with our mallets and setting up our campsite for the weekend, this lovely music just drifting over the fence from about 5-10 meters away. It was lovely, absolutely lovely. We'll talk more about them later, things like songs and stories. But just when we were setting up camp, having this little musical experience trickle over the fence, just I can't put my finger on it. It just felt wonderful. We also, as Black Scar, once most people had arrived, we did some drill. Now, anybody who's heard of Black Scar knows that we're a very old group, a very old unit, and we've fought together for the last 6, 7, 8 years at Empire. And I'd like to think, and I think it's fair to say, we have a good rep. We're an extremely competent, effective fighting unit. And the reason we have this rep is because we're actually good. We're actually very good fighters, not just individually, but as a cohesive unit. And the reason we've got there is A, years of practice, but B, drill. If any of you listening are group leaders or unit leaders, find a time on a Friday to get your lot together and do some drill. We have some basic calls that we do. So last orders is a defensive line with a front rank kneel, so you can't get how do I describe it? Not quite cold feet, but if you have a defensive line where people are standing, and if something terrifying shows up like an Ent or a pack of Etacaps, people will naturally take a step back and you'll give ground. If the front rank kneels, you're not going anywhere. And because you form that resolute line, the people behind you feel much more confident and you hold the ground much more effectively. And also you can brace two rows of spears over each other, and frankly, I've never seen any unit charge us in last orders other than one time where I think we were fighting Jotun, and essentially the monster unit was ready to respawn, and they ran into us and they died. So yeah, last orders a defensive line. Bangarang is a charge, and the idea is it doesn't matter what the word is, but it's about call and response. So if I just go charge and start running, no one near me has any time to react or prepare for what's about to happen. So what you've got to do is have a call word. It could be broken bow, it could be blood thorn, something like that. But the idea is the commander will yell blood thorn. Everyone's aware shit we're about to charge, and then as an individual trooper, if you're ready to charge, you scream blood thorn, and then you start to go forwards, and it gives your whole unit a chance to react, prepare for the order, and then execute that charge in one go. The result is you get a wall of 20 screaming thorns running at you, and most units we bang around break, and if they don't, they die. So yeah, having a good charge command, a good defensive line command is critical. And then the final one is a secret mission. It's essentially slow backwards walk as a unit where we need to leave, and whatever position we're in is shit, but we're going to leave slowly and not get rear charged because retreats are where people die. So 3 simple things: stand, charge, and retreat. Get those calls sorted out of your group, and get drilling. And the way we do drill is we actually have some very experienced fencers, like OC fencers with us. And what we do is we do a few games, kind of like sword tag, you could call it one-on-one warm-ups. And then we just practice all of those commands against an empty road. We'll line up in a line, screamer, bangarang, charge, secret mission, and then last orders, and rinse and repeat until you get a natural flow, a natural cadence, and as a result, you've got a well-drilled unit that won't die. Fingers crossed. But anyway, long point, but just doing drill on a Friday night was a lot of fun. Well, the Friday afternoon. For this event, I actually invested a fair wallop of cash money on special effects. So I got a brand new set of like snaz face paints because I've only had black and red up until now. Ironically, I only use black and red now, which is stupid, but whatever. I got a really nice fancy set with blues and yellows and greens, so I could do thorns on other people, people's naga scales, that kind of stuff. Some fixing spray, so I don't sweat it off, as always, because I love running and getting sweaty, as mentioned. And I also got some alcohol-activated face paint as well for some of the like the smaller tattoos that I wanted to stay on all weekend. And it was awesome. Because up until now, with my snaz, I've been kind of slapdash of it, and I've always had to sort of borrow people's kit, and I feel bad because I've been doing this for years, and frankly, I should have a better setup, because I've spent years and years doing it, and this event, I really wanted to up my face paint game, and I did. It was very fun, very cool. It felt really good to actually sit there. I've got it all in a single box and just whip it out. I've got my brushes, my mirrors, my paints, my fixes, and it was just an easy experience rather than going, oh, sorry, can I get a little finger of that? Oh, thanks, and feeling bad for using people's stuff because they've had to go out and get it right. But yeah, it felt very cool. But the other thing on the SFX side is blood capsules. Got a pot of fake blood spray, but also blood capsules you chew and then you kind of dribble blood out your mouth. I went through pretty much the entire packet this weekend. I loved it. It was awesome. 100%. Get some blood capsules. Keep them in a pouch so that when you get injured, you can start just make it really dramatic for the people picking you up. And frankly, it's a lot of fun. But when you're face down on the floor screaming, and someone a physic gets to you, they turn you over, and there's blood just pouring out of your nose and your mouth, and you're like, help, mummy, I want my mummy. And you can see, they're enjoying it. It's a game. but in their eyes, the initial reaction is, "Oh my fucking god! Oh my god! This is a real casualty," and well, it makes other people's LARP experiences more rich, and that is a good thing to do. Finally, um, I've kind of talked about this already, but my new armor layout, i.e., none, is a lot of fun. Call of Duty mode at Empire is very fun in terms of not having to sweat and change my outfit and my underlayers after every skirmish or battle because they're soaked. I can just run around in the tunic, trousers, and the jacket with my quiver and my bow. Getting injured is pretty common, but that's the price I pay for comfort. So anyway, that's what I was prepping on Friday, and the reason I mentioned my armor layout is I got dressed. And I was thinking, right, there are going to be skirmishes and stuff after standing and the general's elections, so I want to be ready for combat. Uh, oh wait, I am ready. So yeah, that was a nice feeling. Time in. Disclaimer. Lindir spent some the downtime between E2 and E3 in Sarengrave. It's just to the east of Thurunin across a big lake. It's full of Druge, and it was deeply unpleasant. Whilst Lindir is still naive to Anvil politics, his innocence is lost, let's say. And from an OC point of view, it was hard to be totally blind to everything at Empire, like, fighting Druge, Imperial politics, how money works, that kind of thing. When I first made Lindir, he was super naive, and I kind of, it was funny for the first event, well, the first, Sunday he was alive, but it just wouldn't make any sense for him to stay that way for long. So the backstory was, hey, he's gone to Sarengrave, he's seen some shit, and now, it's why he's good with his bow, it's why he's good in battle, but he still doesn't get the finer points of Imperial politics because he has no experience still. So yeah, just use that bit of backstory to kind of average out the difference between E2 Lindir and E3. So, first things first, standing. Uh, the inquiring ink cap that I mentioned above ran an article on ban. Now, I was kind of aware of this, but I hadn't, the first thing when I spawned in, well, sorry, I guess timed in, um, I didn't go looking for one. I actually listened at standing, and what happened is someone tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "Look at this," and showed me the paper, and there I was in the papers, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is great!" And technically, I knew it was coming, but it surprised me so early, and it was so funny to read the article. It was absolutely brilliant. Um, what a way to start a weekend. We're barely 20 minutes in, and I'm already guffawing at myself, and like, oh, this is really nice. The second part of standing is that for those of you who are in the VAR, might have been aware that there was some difference in approach when it came to tackling the final remnants of the heirs of Terranel, I think, and the Feni that were in the way. Long story short, one of our former generals, Clay Taru, and one of our current senators, Travid Longest Path, decided to warn the Feni, which are ostensibly our enemies from the Empire's point of view, that we were coming. The idea was to get them out of the way so we could get to the heirs of Terranel effectively. Long story short, again, that plan worked spectacularly well. The Feni were, oh gosh, yeah, sure, we'll get out of the way. We murdered all the heirs, and we probably came out of that whole scenario smelling of roses in terms of tactical objectives achieved. However, people were not happy that we'd let our enemies know we were coming, and started. Travis was trying to speak at standing. He got heckled, understandably. I love heckling. Heckling is I've got a note here. Heckling is a sport, and what a good match this was, because we had two separate, the two divides in the nation yelling at each other. And then Travid, I have never, Martin Martin is my friend. He plays Travid in the game. Martin is an exceptionally nice and calm person, and that translates into Travid as well. But there was a point where Travid had had enough, and he got out his book, banged it on top of the Songs and Story Circle fire pit, and yelled, "Shut up!" And it was like, we've all been kids. I hope. It's the first time you hear your parent yell, and there was this stunned silence because people yell at Empire all the time, but to see Travid yell, oh, that sent shivers up my spine, and what a delightful little nugget that was. That was, mwah, chef's kiss. What a moment. But anyway, standing went on. I was sort of chatting to people and some other friends, mainly about the Inquiring Ink Cap article. I kind of my pride and joy all of a sudden taking it around to other people in the circle and giving them a subtle tap and saying, "Hey, have you seen this guy? What a cretin, right?" So anyway, standing finishes up, and we move on to the elections. So, two armies, two Navari armies. The Black Thorns, one of our oldest, largest, and fastest moving armies, and our brand new one, the Sailor's Dance, or Isolas. I say a sailors. I don't know. Pronunciation is a guide, not a rule. Whatever. It's now a Sailor's Dance. A Sailor's Dance is brand new. It's just mustered, and this was going to be their first ever general. So, um, Lindir has a couple of friends competing for both titles. One is Clay, who was the incumbent Blackthorn general, the one who had dealt with the Fenny, and then Larkin Shattersong of Ban Shattersong's beloved friend was competing for a Sailor's Dance. Now I've only Linda's only met them briefly, but on an OC point, these two are my friends, and like, oh yeah, just watching them go for it, what an experience. So and both very different. So let's start with the Blackthorns because it was first. It was a real slugfest. Knives out, peak political PvP. Travid got dragged in again at some point. Loads of yelling from the crowd, and not least from a player called Hakon, who's played by someone called Justin. Justin is a phenomenal LARPer. Mighty, broad, tall, bellowing voice, and I don't know. This is going to sound like a bit of a love letter, isn't it, to you, Justin? But every single interaction I've had with any of Justin's characters has been wonderful. They've been so goddamn brief, but they have always been so funny and frankly interesting. I've always felt like I'm about to die on the end of them as he picks me up and breaks me over his knee, like I think it's Sanguinius and the Bloodthirster. But anyway, um, you know what? I've actually got them in my notes. So yeah, let's continue talking about Justin. So when I was playing Darren, who is my first ever character at Empire, we went on a skirmish. Uh, this would have been, oh gosh, what was Kiartan 2 feet. That was it. Justin was playing him, and we go on a skirmish. There's some loot. We get the loot and we get off. And I make the point at the end, like, hey, i.e. Black Scar, a contingent of Black Scar at this point, fought for this. We want some of it. And he was like, no, this is going in the nation's chest. And I was like, yeah, but what about us? He was like, are you not part of this nation? Would you have me fight for money like some lowly beggar? It was really good indignation. And then Darren responds with, you fight like a beggar. just, his, his eyes narrow, lunges for me, and like sort of three people restrain him, and we're separated from each other. But it was one of those zingers. It just came out of nowhere, and about half a second's processing time, and it just again, chef's kiss. It landed perfectly, and I think that set the standard for any of our interactions. If you disagree, just DM me, and we'll have to talk it out. But what I dropped during this election was he was yelling support for his candidate, and then I responded with double the volume but half the wisdom, and just this heckling match between us in the voting queues, and he just looks at me dead in the eye and goes, "Fuck you." And what this means is, I didn't realize at the time, but it was I have no response to that. Damn. And he caught me later and said, I need to buy you a drink because you got me good, or words to that effect. And again, I'm not making this realistically an hour and a half long podcast episode to ask for a drink, but I'm totally asking for a drink from Hakon. Anyway, history aside, the election kicks off almost immediately with Clay getting cursed. Um, and at this point, Lindir just is like, "Oh my god, you've cursed somebody. That's not nice." So I jump up with my knife and chase the cursor. By the way, I should know this, having played Ban. Cursing people is totally legal in Empire. So I caught up with the person who delivered the curse. He said, "Don't stab me. This is entirely legal." I realized, oh yeah, it is. So I just, have a very lame attempt at chastising him, and he's like, "Don't shoot the messenger. This isn't my curse." And yeah, I went and sat back down. But what this curse had done is, I think it made Clay very angry, or like unable to process complex things. I'm not sure, but fundamentally, major disadvantage for what was about to be the political fight of his life. The candidates were really good. None of them sort of solo stood on the shit on Clay pillar. The shit on Clay pillar was, oh, you talk to enemies, you let them know we were coming, you're a traitor, right? There was plenty of that spice in there, but no one actually relied on that to make their point. So that was good. I've got OC and IC opinions, which I'm going to drop here because they're brief, on the resulting winner. It was a player called, a citizen called Caro. Apologies, I don't know the player's name. They won, I think, with a pretty decent chunk of the vote. Now, props to Caro because they have advanced very quickly. Last event at E2, he was given Voice of the Thorns Council as a position out of nowhere. I haven't been aware of the player myself as Ban, but then again, I was often off stealing shit, so who knows. Caro kind of came in, took that position, and then one event later, bang, takes the Blackthorns. And to step up to the plate against people who've been scheming for a general's position for over a year, and then also an existing general with major wins under his belt, and then punch at their weight is an awesome achievement. Especially with getting Voice of Thorns last summit, it was like watching a meteor. So a perfect example of go for it at Empire, at least in my eyes. I see. What the fuck is this guy doing? We won. We can't betray our enemies. Clay and Travid are heroes. They took the risk and it paid off. Very much a case of the ends justifying the means. I thought they were courageous and wise, and to see Clay cast out from a position he loved so dearly pissed off Lindir immeasurably. So yeah, very opposite feelings on an IC and an OC front. Especially seeing someone, OC going from Voice of Thorns to General in a single event, absolute champ move. But IC is like, well, you're just gonna dump a position every time a shinier one comes along. So it didn't impress him. So this results in lots of screaming and yelling, especially heckling during the voting. I think once Clay loses the vote, the changeling rage kicks in. He goes off and starts to just scream in the background, and the rest of Black Scar go and kind of contain him from killing everybody in the area. And then we move on to a Sailor's Dance. This was much more civil and a damn sight quicker. Now, Larkin Shattersong is one of the standing candidates. And then I believe it's Quinn Longshadow now. Quinn, I'm sorry if I got that wrong. From what I remember, Quinn had just changed striding. But two very competent captains. OC, I've fought with Matty for like years. IC, Lindir's made friends with with Larkin, sorry, and has seen her fight at the previous event, so he knows her. But then also Quinn organises a lot of skirmishes in the VAR, or at least did so. I haven't seen. I saw a lot of him. I saw a lot of him at E3, but not for those fighting reasons. But they're both very competent, and like on an OC level, really hard to pick between them. And IC, it's kind of the same. Lindir likes both of them. Let's see what happens. And so yeah, my point was going to be, I wish Ban could have been alive to see this, because the whole Shattersong striding, it's about ambition to be the greatest you can be in whatever it is that you do. Bands was becoming the greatest criminal in the Empire, and Larkins was becoming general of a sailor's dance. And Larkin achieved that. She won, spoilers, and damn, yeah, wish Ban could have been alive to see that because it would have been so satisfying. But anyway, on to the candidates themselves, the actual discussion itself, the pitch, if you will, before we voted. Quinn was bang on the money, like really respectable candidate, genuine, fair, and he stood in his own virtue rather than the weaknesses of others. And you could also tell that Quinn and Larkin liked each other. You know, they were battle hardened allies. This wasn't political knives out like the Blackthorns, which, don't get me wrong, entertaining as hell. But this was heartwarming to see two people competing. But no matter who we picked, it was a win. And for them, they didn't. It wasn't the be all and end all of their existence. They were happy to let the other person win because it was all based on merit. And the nation, yeah, my notes here, the nation was the real winner. But Larkin, what a speech, well won and well deserved. Um, the actual voting split was quite surprising. So I think Larkin got a majority, quite a strong one on the votes. I think maybe 60-70% of them. However, from the way they both pitched, I don't think that represented how close it was. Of course, this is my personal opinion. It might have been different, but I genuinely was sat there at the end thinking, gosh, it's almost a coin toss scenario. They both did very, very well. On to national training after the two elections are done, um, with the two brand new minted generals being dragged off the military council, which they were late for. The rest of us get on with our weekends, and for Lindir, this was going on to national training and the Navarchers. So Lindir is an archer. There is an archer unit in Navarre. It's called the Navarchers, and as part of national training, they go down and, from my brief experience with them, the idea is to meet other archers, of course, but also help the Thorns train with and against archery. So we did the usual, some combat drills, and from my point earlier on the Friday afternoon, drill, drill, drill. And I feel like Navarre has got better as a fighting nation in the last few years, and I think I think a lot of it is down to these kind of drill sessions. They are critical, and if you haven't been to them, go to at least one. It's a really good experience, and also it's a social. It's really fun. So yeah, the Navarchers, lovely, lovely bunch. It was being run by Talis Ashbourne at this event. I think, oh gosh, I've forgotten Antonia's character name. Bugger. Essentially, there was a captain of the Navarchers who didn't come to E3, so Talis took over and did a really, really, really good job. The whole group itself really fun to chill with. There was a slight concern over the poundage of my bow. Luckily, it's not over. It's 28 pounds out of 30, but it's a pretty hefty longbow, and one of the kind citizens in the bar is actually a former UK archery champion. So when she pulled on this bow, she's like, "Bloody hell, are you sure this is going to pass weapons check?" So went down, and of course it did. But there was a little bit of a throbbing panic in my throat of, please, God, no, I love this thing. Please, I don't, because when I got checked at the last event, I was like, huh, was that a fluke? It can't have been a fluke. But yeah, that doubt in my heart was quickly extinguished. I've got a note here, but I skipped national training for like 3 years. And as I said before, it's actually really fun. How much of it applies in the field is a bit questionable, I think. I think there's a few scenarios where we, fight in groups of three against other groups of three, which is pretty rare. But it builds cohesion in the nation. It allows you to identify your friends who are going to be fighting with you in battle lines, and cohesion is fundamentally what wins you battles. Again, in my notes here, look at Wintermark on the Sunday battle. We got them good, and I'll touch more on that later on. So, anyway, national training finishes. There's no skirmishes. No skirmishes coming up on a Friday evening that Lindir's going to get on. So it's time to settle into the plan. And that plan is getting some cash for drinks. Hashtag storytime. Last event, Lindir got shot on the front line whilst Navarre were retreating. The classic way for a character to die at Larp. Now, luckily, one Anwin Stormbroke picks me up and saves my life. At this point, I utter the classic "I owe you a pint," and thus we proceed to E3. Bearing in mind we only had, I don't know, 4 hours of game time at E2 when this actually happened. So got it all left over the distance between the two events. And then now it's time to make good on my debts. Again, I'm a Lannister, just a late Lannister. So I go off, I have a Dragonbone Forest. The only reason I picked it is because the Fizz Rep, the little bones, are really cool. I used to have a Tempest Jade mine with Ban, because I like green rocks. And then now I've picked on the sort of beigey bone cylinders. What can I say? I'm a simple creature. It's shiny rock or cool shaped cylinder. It's just fun to have a sack of them. I know you could get a military unit and step into the MU game, but I just like opening my player back and having just a bunch of bricks in there. It's so cool. I love the Fizz Reps, the resource Fizz Reps at Empire. They're just perfect. But anyway, time to go trading with my Dragonbone, and I go to the Orcs, and I've never actually traded with the Orcs before. I didn't go into the camp, but I met one of them at the front of their camp, that sort of gated area they've got, and made an absolute bomb. Turns out that Dragonbone was in very short supply at this event, so I think I sold 22 of them for around about 28 crown. I think it was 27.5 crowns. Now usually, these kind of resources like Dragonbone, Tempest Jades, Iridescent Gloaming, they sell for about a crown each-ish, right? It's pretty reliable. Now to get, only sold 22, but I got, let's call it 28 back. An extra 6 crowns on top of profit. Pretty solid indeed. It was also that the Orc actually had a little table for comparing the prices of resources and how many rings it was worth and how many crowns and thrones that translated to for convenience's sake. It was kind of like an X and Y lookup graph, and I just thought that was very cool, very practical, very prepared for trading. Because my Empire maths has got better throughout the years, but I don't carry any kind of I don't know, not an abacus or anything like that, but I haven't got anything to actually do calculations on the fly on my character. I've kind of just done napkin maths most of the time. But it was just cool to see this little lookup table. It was sort of laminated, and sorry, no, it wasn't laminated. It had kind of like a frame to it, and you could sort of drag this X and Y marker to whichever point on the graph you wanted to, and based on the resource, it had different charts, and it looked very detailed, and I was very impressed. So I made a good trade, and I spent the sort of 8 to 10 p.m. slot doing stuff like walking around, a decent amount of it in Wintermark actually, and taking my new Steve, my new player, around and introducing him to people and showing him Anvil IC, because the Friday afternoon walkabout is always a good idea. However, doing it when there's actually game going on, A, you can run into random plot, but B, it's also just a more accurate experience for walking around in the OC time. And then finally, after I've done this with Steve, the time comes for drinks, and I trundle up Murder Alley to the Black Scar camp. Got any secrets to share? Says a creepy cloaked figure. I've got a couple. Gotta hate my notes sometimes. At this point, I hashtag ignore the ref, hashtag ignore the speaker, this audio speaker playing spooky music, and I go, yeah, I'm late for buying Antwin a drink. Stop. I'm like, excuse me. The ref, who was literally stood next to this bloody figure, this cloaked figure with this spooky music, he steps forth in his bright yellow tabard, and I'm like, fuck, what have I done? Hands me a lammy. And at this point, I realised that I need to be more vigilant, and I have just fucked up. One of my dear friends, Finn, who plays Riflin in Black Scar, is capering around loving this, and he begs to see my Lammy because this essentially this creature is a tulpa. It steals secrets. It's been walking around trying to get people to give it secrets, and of course they've gone fuck off. Lindir, of course, has given it a secret like an idiot. So Riflin comes around. He's like, "Oh my god, Lindir, no! What have you done? Quick!" And begs to see the Lammy. And the role playing effect is that you see as a player before you open it is that I'm going to paraphrase here. Everything about the secret you've just shared, you have forgotten, and everything related to it, you have also forgotten. So at this point, I'm like, oh bugger, how do I play this? And so Riffler and I have a little loosey chat about it, just under our breath. But we decide on the idea that I have basically so the whole point is buying Anwin a drink that stretches all the way back to E3. So I'm going to forget Anwin. I'm going to forget about the drink. I'm going to forget about all of the events that have happened this evening, sort of between 8 and 10, because in theory at that point I was going around trading to get money to buy a drink, and the way I described it to people is imagine like a spider's web with the dream of the secret at the center, and then everything that's linked is just gone. The space in between, like national training, sure, that's fine, but like I remember that. But Anwin, drinks, evening plans, what I've just done, it's all gone out the window. Actually, I've got a quote here. You've forgotten everything about the secret you just shared and any memory related to it. So, yeah, poof, everything goes for most of E3, and Lindir.exe has stopped working. The worst part of this is that when Finn opens the Lammy, it is blank on the inside. Now, at this point, we should have realised something was wrong, gone back to the ref, but we just rolled a bit with, fuck, it's a role-playing effect, and there is no way to fix it. So we just looked each other dead in the eye, wide, like eyes wide, like a cat, and like, there's nothing we can do. Sniggering, let's go. Time to go and enjoy this fuck up. So I think, right, I've got to go and I've got to make this easy. I can't just waltz off and never ever talk to them again, because that's difficult. Of course, with this kind of role play, of course, I've forgotten about the whole plan. However, I find with Empire and role playing that you've got to, if that kind of thing happens, you've got to make sure that the other person knows about it somehow. So I decided to happen to walk by the Stormbroke camp and happen to catch Anwin's eye. And then when she came up and said, "Oh, are you ready to go?" I dropped the classic line, "Who are you?" And I watch her face drop, and there's a there's a little smile on mine, but I try and suppress it as much as I can. But just dropping, "Who are you?" And I can see all the cogs turning. Like, is this a new character? How have you died in the space of 4 hours? What the fuck is going on? And I point to the Lammy that's tucked into my belt. And luckily, this is where Quinn Longshadow is also on the scene as well. So he insights me, and I get to pull out the delightful effect of this Lammy being blank. And once again, enjoying the wide eyes of a panicked priest. Sorry, a panicked mage. I think it was detect magic actually, not insight. But seeing them panic as they read the effect, and there's nothing inside. Then realizing, oh my god, what has happened to this poor citizen? What on earth do we do next? At this point, it's off to Varushka we go, because there's the rumors of the Tulpa, this creature stealing secrets, has kind of spread around the whole of Anvil, to be honest, by this point. So we go off. There's like 10 of us, most of the Stormbroke, myself, Quinn. We go off to Varushka, and with no real plan in mind, other than we need to find out what the hell has taken Lindir's memories. So we go in there. I get to have this wonderful roleplay experience of meeting Anwin again, meeting some other Thorns and Stormbroke too, and under my not under my breath, but just deep inside, I'm cackling with laughter because it's hilarious. But on the outside, it's quite wholesome. You're being really friendly, like, oh gosh, everyone's so nice here. Oh, you're all being really nice towards me. I've never met you in my life, but this is great. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. We end up in Varushka and have a fantastic roleplay experience with. I'm sorry, didn't get the name of their oh, is Vale a group for Varushka? God, I should know this. Their group. Oh, it's got to be Vale. You have a boyar that runs a Vale. You've got an earl that runs a household. March. Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So this the leader of this Vale, a wise one, that they're sort of typically older in Varushka, essentially knows lots about monsters. We go in, and Varushkans have hearth magic that involves hospitality, where if a monster comes in, they're often disguised as a person, but if you offer them hospitality, they can't strike you. So we go in, and Lindir, of course, knowing things, but not who the fuck he's with, understands, oh, if you get offered a seat, you take it. Get offered some food, you take some, have a little nibble on some grapes, and some of the other Navarre we had with us, of course, don't get this, and they go, oh no, no, thank you. Of course, they're being polite, and the Varushkans, who were charming and friendly and very, very welcoming, suddenly go stone hard cold and demand that they have some. And I explain, Linda explains at this point, like, oh no, it's important. Just take a seat, have some, if you'd like to, unless you're genuinely not hungry, and but just say that you accept their hospitality. It's very important that we accept their hospitality right now. Otherwise, we're getting a boot in our arse, and out we go. So we get to sit there in a circle, talking with them, explaining what's happened to me. The poor Navarre, the poor Stormbroke lot have to explain what on earth has just happened with very little information. Quinn's got a role-playing effect description, and the rest have he's forgotten everything. But they eventually nail down on this Tulpa, which is the name of the secret stealing monster, and fundamentally don't know how to deal with it. And at this point, they point us towards Urizen. We go to an Urizeni, a large Urizeni tent. There's like a spire meeting going on inside. I get chucked in, and again, another really cool, deep role-playing experience. And when I say that, chatting to citizens, having a battle, sorry, a fight, a skirmish, a scrap, whatever, it's all role-play, right? But this was important. When you go in, you can just tell that, like, this is a highlight of their weekend. We do not know these people. OC, I've got no idea who they are. I've never met them before. We've never had interactions in Anvil either. They are totally new. And we're coming in with something quite serious, a curse, basically. And at this point, they sit us down again. A very high lineage Mero gets a pair of lights out and starts doing what I later find out to be their hearth magic and some rituals, and playing along with that and starting to get twinges of my memory, or like, so I called it, I kind of had to just roll with things at this point, but I kind of described it as a black spot in my memory, or ouch, that word hurts kind of thing. And that got very, very exciting. We kept it going for about 20, 30 minutes, but at this point it's cropping up to midnight and people are getting tired. So I just try and, not in an OC way, but just try and drop that, look, we're not going to get anywhere. And I say I think it's best if we retire and approach this again once more in the morning. And at this point we call it quits for the evening. I basically trundle back to camp, say goodbye to the Stormbroke lot, and go to sleep. Because getting not an early night, but just some sleep is big and smart, and would 100% recommend it. Because it gives you the energy to fight. Well, not even, I mean, for me, fight on the Saturday, but for anyone, to enjoy the Saturday, the big cheese, the meat of the hamburger of any Empire event. So, on to Saturday, and oh my god, it's taken 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 44 seconds to get through 6 hours of RP. Bloody hell! Right, I promise this will. I promise this will. This will pick up in speed, but stay the same of juicy, heartfelt. I hope juicy, heartfelt content. Anyway, Saturday battle against the Druge. I've got a mini Hots&Nots just for this battle. Uh, Number one, Sam Fisher knife kills. I think that's the name of the guy in Splinter Cell. Someone called me Sam Fisher. Basically, I got round a flank where actually Black Scar were engaged, and there was a Druge in the bushes just kind of heckling them. So I do, the classic stealth crouch walk. I do that. He somehow doesn't see me. It makes sense because Druge, the Orc masks have terrible peripheral vision. And I sneak up behind him, with a knife in my hand, kind of like a Royal Marine commando coming out of the bushes in those adverts. And yeah, knife goes on him, Orc goes down, and then I melt back into the bushes. It was pretty fucking cool. And doing that in front of my friends as well. They caught me at the end and went, "Holy crap, Lindir, that was awesome." So yeah, 10 out of 10 RP moment, probably one of the highlights of the weekend. Some other parts of this whole fight. I did a hip fire shotgun kill, as described by the senator for Kinnear, Result Dance Walker, because they were fighting around this corner, some Druge, and I come around behind them and just go, "Oi, scum!" and just low draw, longbow, but fire from the hip, hit this Druge in the belly, and he drops dead. And it was kind of like just kicking in the door in like a SWAT raid, and a shotgun just firing it into a room. It's pretty badass, not gonna lie. Didgeridoos. One of the Bardstuds plays a didgeridoo, and said player was capering around on the fucking battlefield playing this didgeridoo. Again, in the classic, crouch walk, just waddling around playing it. So yeah, I went and crouch walked next to him, and we just wandered around the front lines, hunting out Druge. At this point, we were on the main fields. There was, and Navarre had formed up, Dawn had formed up, and we were kind of mopping up the remnants of the battle. So we had like 500 people just staring at us as we didgeridoo our way around this field, taking pot shots at Druge. And this leads to the knee shot. So there's a couple of Druge archers harassing Dawn, and they're not firing back. So your hero of the day, Lindir Thornheart, runs to the front. One of them turns, fires at him, and Lindir ducks underneath the arrow. Classic Matrix move. He stands up, knocks his arrow, fires, and it hits the other Druge who's not paying attention, dead in the knee, between the steel greaves covering their leg and the chainmail skirt covering their thigh. It is the knee shot. It is perfect, and this props this monster. They go down screaming. It's wonderful. The other archer runs off. Dawn cheers. Navarre cheers. I run forwards because this is my 47th kill. I need this because if I'm going to break my record of 46, this one has to die to my blade. So yeah, I'm missing out a lot of the battle, but fundamentally it was once again for Lindir, loads of shots, skirmishing on the front line. One of my friends, Alison, she plays Gwen, using a bow for the first time. We sort of paired up for a bit. Another player, Ty, who I've done a few episodes with on this podcast, saw him. And yeah, just running around, being an archer is the most fun I've had in the battlefield ever, hands down. But anyway, we run up onto the Druge, and there's some knights panel beating the shit out of it, and I'm screaming, "No, no, it's mine, I need it for my record." And as I said at the start of the episode, an hour and 13 minutes ago, we'll have a great laugh because it's a wonderful shot. The monster congratulates me on it because this is over like 30, 40 meters. It was a real long dolly drop. It was a good shot. And Dawn go, "All right, it's yours. Well done, citizen. That was glorious." And then the monster itself is cackling away as I sort of cut off his ears and stab him in the toes, that kind of thing. And yeah, a lot of fun and a real highlight. And yeah, it totally paints over the pretty close call we actually had inside the forest. I've put here the mad crush in the forest plus the triangle of death. So because the forest is pretty hard to maneuver in as an army, what happens is you have basically mobs on both sides, running into each other, and and it's pretty hard to get flanks because it's just hard bracken, and it's again like fighting in a spider's web, right? Where you can only travel along the web itself and not the space in between. And at one point, three blobs of Imperial troops get kesseled together by these Druge mobs on the outside. There's three ways into this glade, and they're all covered by Druge mobs, and we get surrounded. Now, Wintermark are used to getting surrounded. They form shield walls. They're pretty used to it. We are not. We are used to being able to run and run fast and away. We couldn't. So what follows is some of the most desperate fighting I've ever seen. Black Scar in there, a chunk of Urizen, I want to say, and some Dornish knights as well. And we get crushed, and we just fight tooth and nail. A lot of us go down. We get slaughtered in some places. There are suicidal charges to make space on other flanks. So Gwen and I, like, not point blanking, but maybe across 10 meters, we're popping behind shields and popping shots into knees, that kind of stuff, just to try and stem the tide. It is absolutely wild. And thanks to the efforts of all three groups, there's no one who can really be singled out. We eventually break open one of the Druge mobs, and we finally managed to get some space and fall back into there. But it was genuinely really close, like a 40 or 50 player kill. It was really quite concerning. But yeah, Lindir's just going to forget about that. Final note here is Lindir does not understand loyalty. So I tried to fight with three separate groups during this battle, and I didn't really do a good job of any of them. The Navarchers, of course, really wanted to fight with them, and I just ended up running off doing my own thing. The scouts as well. I worked with a couple of them trying to ferry messages and unit dispositions to unit commanders, and of course Black Scar as well. I'm the only archer, so I've had a few times with all three of these groups. I'll pop up out of nowhere, take a few pot shots. I'm not going to say save the day, but somebody else did. but and then melt off into the bushes again. Essentially as an independent fighter, and it was quite hard because I do really like unit play at Empire, and shifting between all three of these was, I feel like I definitely missed out on some of the RP of being in a unit during a battle. Like, I had loads of awesome individual experiences, but living those kind of experiences as a unit is a lot more fun in my books. So next time, I think I'll try and stick to one of them, maybe two. But yeah, that I think that briefly covers most of the battle, and we come back to camp. I have the remnants of my French ration pack. Essentially, those of you who don't know me, I'm a bit weird in that I like ration packs. I've had a lot of British Army ones, and what I've done this time to treat myself is got a French one. Let's see if the stereotype is true. Is the French food better, even for infantrymen? And the answer is yes. Like, this thing was actually lovely. Like, especially the meat in there as well. Some of the tuna stuff, delicious, absolutely delicious. And the reason I do this is not because I'm sadistic and I like eating gruel. It's that these things are like really high calorie. They're quite balanced. They've got loads of like isotonic drinks, teas, and stuff in them as well. And the idea is you can cram this into your body in the space of like 15 minutes in camp, have a little sit down, but then you've got enough energy to keep going for the rest of the weekend and not crash. And works every time. Would recommend you do it. What I used to do is queue up in Moorish and have my sort of 3 meals a day kind of thing. And it just killed so much of my weekend. Like, don't get me wrong, sitting down in Moorish is super relaxing. Super fun if you do it with friends, of course. You could even meet other players in there and have an IC chat over a meal. It's great stuff. But having that rat pack means you can come off the battle, recharge, get back into playing pretty damn quickly. And that's exactly what I did. Because I was caught. I'm going to have to be careful here because I'm not going to talk about something that's active plot. I ran into a group, the Redacted. And the Redacted took me to the front Redacted, and asked me to stand around and just wait while they redacted. And then once the event had finished, I was then discharged from redacted. This takes about 30 minutes. After this, I'm walking back up to the Navari camp, and who do I walk into? The person I'm looking for, Quinn Longshadow. At this point, I've got Steve, my friend, with me, and we start stage 2 of tackling Lindir's curse, because you might have forgotten, but Lindir had his memory deleted, because I'd forgotten as well until I just read it in my notes. Funny how that works, right? So yeah, we have a bit of a plot twist here. We realise that the Lammy isn't blank. It's just been stuck together inside out. I'm not sure how to explain it. But fundamentally, the text is inside another piece of paper, and we just couldn't see it in the dark. Like, we really genuinely tried at night, but during the day, we had to, like, when you peel the sticker off, just a corner of it came away, and we just opened it up, and then we found some of the mechanical effects. Yeah, it triggered a lot of game, and it was a lot of fun because it felt very much like a quest, like a D&D quest. We had, Quinn. Quinn is a Vate. I'm pretty sure, at least a magical user, amongst other things. My mate Steve was playing just, bashy combat thorn, chainmail, shield, sword, and then I'm rocking around with my longbow. So we've kind of got the mage, the ranger, and the fighter as a little three going around, and it just felt, again, wholesome weekend. It felt cool. It felt like, hey guys, we're on a quest. Isn't this great? And we're walking all over Anvil. We get to Reggio in the end. You're trying to work out what the hell is wrong, and we're bouncing around all of these different information sources and trying to work things out. And oh, it was so cool. It was so cool. And we finally get to deal with this curse. Now, it does take a lot of stages, and I won't bore you with them mechanically, but the TLDR is that after a bunch of rituals and stuff, the conclusion is that the Tulpa has my memories, and they are gone. But I can get flickers of them back by engaging in Navari Hearth magic, which is sitting down and sharing a meal with somebody. Now, I got this. It's not correct to call it a curse, but let's just call it a curse for that mechanic's sake. I had that curse removed from me, so I was cured of it, and that's how we found out the result was, sorry, that the memories are just gone. It also left a secondary curse for me. I've got it for the next year, and it's essentially aftershock from the rituals used to find out what this first curse was. It's called Mask of the Blinded Weaver. And the idea of it is that it obscures my magical item bonds, and anyone sort of trying to detect bond on me will just get no effect, I think. And it also makes me, I've put Meerkat in my, in what, essentially Meerkat at mundane objects. And what this means is occasionally things will catch my attention in the corner of my eye, and I'll go, and look at them, but it's just something mundane. The Glory Square in Dawn was an absolute fucking nightmare because there's flags just fluttering everywhere, and I was just trying to stare at all of them, and it was hilarious. Like the Stormbrook lot came along and helped me, and I'll explain in a second, but just staring around and just my head just jumping from flag to flag. Hilarity ensued, of course. So let's call this secondary curse the Meerkat 1, phase 2. At this point, Quinn is done. He walks off, and we realise we've got to the end of this plot. Let's crack on. Honestly, about 2 fucking seconds. Honestly, I want to say, it's like 2 seconds later. I genuinely think it was about 12 to 15. Because I said as much to Steve. I was like, Anvil has a funny way of giving you exactly who you want to see every time you need them. I said that, and 4 seconds later, I said this 10 seconds after saying goodbye to Quinn, and 4 seconds later, Anwin Stormbroke walks around a corner with the rest of Stormbroke in tow, and I'm like, oh my fucking god, would you look at that? And him and I we just stare at each other, just laughing like, See, see what I mean? It always happens that way. It always happens. So they show up and ask how I'm doing. Part of the Mask of the Blinded Weaver curse is that you forget that it was cast on you. So when they asked me with what have you been up to, are you okay? I couldn't respond with the specifics. So this was just adding layers and layers of memory loss. Like I remembered that I've had my memories permanently stolen. I'm not getting them back, and I also forget that. So there's just this memory loss trifle is absolutely heinous. But um, I try my best to RP properly. I think I do it okay, but inside I'm just breaking because I'm like I just can't. Like fundamentally, it's done at this point. The plot is done. Let's just leave it. Lindir's cursed for a year. Whoop-de-doo. Time to fill those gaps in with doing stuff this weekend. But I can't say that because I don't know. So luckily, Steve's been there listening in, and he explains it loosely. The funny part is, of course, he's not a vape, so he doesn't really understand what he's saying either. So we have this ultra vague story about how Lindir is okay, but he's actually not okay because he's also forgotten why he's okay. And, Stormbreaker being competent, take Lindir under their wing once again. And, with Lindir twitching like a madman, they make the sensible assumption that the curse has escalated and has not been cured. And thus, we traipse off to Dawn and then Wintermark. We go into Dawn. The flags are a nightmare. I think we go there to try and meet some people who might know a bit more about fixing me. And then we go into Wintermark to try and find some more information about this Tulpa and see if anybody else has had their memories stolen by this thing. They had. Now the TLDR in this section, because this whole story from after the Saturday battle, this takes us to like 6 in the evening. No, that's not true. Maybe about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But it's like it's all intense RP during this entire period. And I'm again not going to go into every single blow, but the TLDR is I'm trying my hardest to not just say leave it, as it's been a lot of fun for like 20 people at this point. But we keep running into walls because of the mechanics, because we've already solved everything. And in the end, I suggest we find Quinn. We do. He explains everything, and the arc completes. But during that process, I get to, one of the Wintermark mystics sits me down and gives me some brownies and tries to engage in hearth magic to help me remember stuff. And I just go, oh, drinks. And of course they don't get the context. They hand me a drink. And I was like, oh, this is lovely. And then I forget, what the hell I'm doing. Yeah, it was just it's those little role play moments where you meet people you never met IC or OC. You're doing something serious and you get to engage with the mechanics of the game. And that's quite rare for me personally. Usually it's either fighting or dicking around, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. So props to that Wintermark Hall. I did not get your name, and in true Lindir fashion, I have forgotten it. Phew. Right, on to the skirmishes. There were a bunch that Lindir got to go on this summit, and they were a lot of fun. The first was going to the bone hives to stop the Druze destroying them. I've actually got the results, which PD published after E3. Very, very handy to actually see. We've always had to rely on people's word. Like, did you win? Oh yeah, we won. But you might find that actually mechanically they only had a minor victory, not a major one. They now publish this information, so for historians and chroniclers, it's a lot easier. And for us, we can also see, hey, that thing we did we even succeed? So, the bone hives. The Druze were only able to destroy 2 of them, so meaning the bone hives won't produce anything until winter, like the upcoming winter event. I think it's 2 events, which is not a bad thing. So it's kind of like a minor victory. It's inconvenient for the owner, but for us, meh, good enough. Defending beehives was pretty cool. The next one was rescuing a kidnapped Navari and recovering an ancient relic. There were 2 of them, 2 prisoners. So this This mission is led by Ravadi, who I brought on for an episode ages ago, and they basically turn this into like a SWAT hit. It's like a Spec Ops smash and grab. So this skirmish has 20 minutes, and I think we only use 7 of it in the end. We go in, we batter the crap out of these orcs. We take the prisoners. I think we leave one behind in the end because they get injured or something. So it all happens so fast. And then we also got the relic as well on that prisoner that we rescued. So we got the important thing, and the Vari citizen got left behind. But whoops, it's not the biggest loss ever. Let's call this a moderate victory. And then the final one was defeating a horror from the Spring Realm threatening Dornish armies. And the result was that the beast was dealt with decisively, and the Dornish armies saved from its depredations. This was the skirmish that Lindir got to go on with Anwin and sorry, Ken is his IC name, and just like we essentially, like I said at the start, promised 20 places. We had to argue just to get 10. We get our little hit squad in as the vanguard, and we go in as all of the Druze you'd be in the area are no longer cognizant. They've basically been infected by the spring horror. So when we turn up, they're kind of all just loitering near trees, but walking sort of very like zombie, jaggedly but quick, twitchy kind of movements. Very unnerving. And when they notice us, they turn around, shriek, and then run at us, weapons up, and just attack us without rhyme or reason. There's no strategy. They're not talking to each other. They just run in and start hacking away at us. And then once we clear them out, and there's a good number of them, like a good 30 or 40, this mega crab comes from the depths of the woods. It's a gigantic beetle with crab claws. And what happens is this poor thing gets stuck in the washing machine of death, where it is entirely surrounded, getting panel beaten by about 30 to 40 heroes, because the others can't get close enough, repeatedly. Linda's getting some strikes in, Ken is getting some strikes with his longsword, and then there were some hilarious shots where I think the beast gets disarmed at one point, a crab claw falls off, and people are like, we're hurting it, keep fighting. And Anwin uses a hammer, and the hammer just hence the nickname Hammer. Hammer hits this thing basically dead in the face, and it's Larp, right? So it's gentle. Your blows are pulled, but from a cinematic point of view, watching this thing take a lump of concrete to the face was fucking. It's basically a brick on a stick. Taking a blow to the face was absolutely awesome. And again, like I said earlier, I just enjoyed the crap out of this fight. Actually talked to the Dornish commander, suggested to them that look, we need to fall back. This thing's not dying because it had, I swear to God, taken 1,000 hits at this point. We've got 30 people striking it every second. We honestly spent about 3 to 4 minutes just beating it. And it would wildly swing at us, and the people jump backwards and dive out of the way. One Dornish knight decided to flex that they had 5 uses of Unstoppable, so went into it, let it maul him. Unstoppable, maul, unstoppable, maul. Basically fed himself to it. I'm not sure why. It did fix it in place for a bit, so everyone could beat it, but yeah, it didn't die. And then what happened is I chat to the Dornish commander, we back off, and the thing just drops over dead. And we were like, huh. Alright then, easy. I guess we should have just not hit it at any point. It was like our blows were keeping it alive. But anyway, it drops dead. We're victorious. We cry out into the trees and then march home. Now Lindir does go to the crab claw and scoop out a bit of pretend meat, and now has a delightful spring snack that he's nibbled on. I'm sure there are no negative consequences to that at all. But then on the way out, one thing I really like about the combat at Larp, and something I also find very interesting, is I think I mentioned it in my episode with Matty about her Hots&Nots, is that essentially combat stress. We are big heroes of the Empire. We can see these horrendous, go to these battles, these horrendous bloodbaths, and come out A, alive, and B, confident we can go into another one. No hard feelings. Haha, we killed the orcs. Got them good. Now, part of Lindir's naivety roleplay for me is challenging that view of, why, God, how is everybody here so okay with this? We've been so close to death all afternoon, and we're doing it again and again and again. An experienced Roman legionary might have seen two, maybe three major battles in his lifetime at the peak of the Roman Empire. We see, two, well, technically one every summit, so four a year, four every single year. It's an incredible amount of stress and trauma, from an IC point of view to go through. And as Lindir was walking back to the gate, seeing all these dead Druge just everywhere, just littering. I mean, round of applause for the crew because they were lying dead still. And it genuinely, on an IC and an OC level, it felt a bit like, it really felt like a battle had been fought there, and this was the bloody, brutal aftermath. People are dead, families' lives are ruined, and they're never coming back. And it's all your fault. You did this. These dead people around you are dead because of your actions. And that really hit Lindir. It's Lindir's Facebook profile picture at the moment. There's a great shot. I think it's from Tom Garnett. I'll have to double check that. Apologies if I've got that wrong. But at this point, I was really enjoying it with an IC and OC point of, this is fucked. What we've just done is totally immoral. And yeah, the Druge, we hate them. They're scum. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like I've robbed. I've been part of this great robbery of life, and it's a crime. And very, very powerful. And felt it was one of those deep emotional trenches that you hit sometimes with RP. You've got the dizzying peaks and the desperate lows, and I enjoy both of them equally. And this was certainly a trench where I felt like a piece of shit, and the grim reality of a hero's life in Anvil set on me, and was a real poignant moment for Lindir. But anyway, we get through the gate, we're alive, and it's evening pub crawl time. Now, the at this point, the whole memory thing is laid to rest. It's time to make some new ones. So Lindir, with some of his cash, we go out with the rest of Stormbroke to say thank you for looking after me and helping me out, and we go to the Mandela's Arms in the Marches. Now, the Mandela's Arms is a wonderful March pub tent. It's got benches and tables inside. There's about 8 of us, so we go in, order some drinks, and we sit down at a table. Just as we're sitting down, like sort of, literally, I think I get my legs just behind it. Another March comes over and goes, "Oh, sorry, we were sitting here." I went, "Oh, really?" Because I just booked this table with the barkeeper at the front, and the Marcher responds, "Oh, I didn't realize we took table bookings, and I run the place." I'm sat there like, in my head. But luckily, this Marcher's compatriot with him says, "Oh, don't worry about it. Let's go somewhere else." And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And they do get a seat at the next table over. This is basically an empty one, so we can fit a whole group. But just how quickly that came out, that was definitely Band's attitude there, just seeping through. But the Stormbroke found that hilarious. Of like, "Did you book this?" And like, "No, didn't book that at all. It just rolled off the tongue." And we spend the rest of the evening, well, not the rest of the evening, the rest of our evening in the Mandela's Arms, talking about the cretin for his ban Shatter Song. And this was a bit of like, IC and OC bleed. It was basically talking about what he'd done. It was very funny, done very very tongue in cheek. Eden, who plays Anwin Stormbroke, is very, very good at taking IC locations and relating to OC places. Like, I think Seren is Hull in the UK. Like, sometimes it's just the way she says Seren. It's just very clear that we're not talking about Seren, we're talking about Hull. But Anyway, we talk about ban in that kind of manner, and then about 30 minutes in, one of the other Stormbrokes realizes that I was the player for ban and loses their shit. Hilarity ensues. She's absolutely, she's like crying of laughter because it's been pretty funny already. And then she realizes, and this just tilts us over the edge. We've all had a drink or two, and it was genuine side-splitting laughter for about 30, 40 seconds. It genuinely hurt, but well, it was wonderful. We finish up our drinks, and we decide to go on a pub crawl. And we mint a social secretary for the group. I give them a throne, and then off we go to Uncle Regretio's. Now I've heard lots of tales about Uncle Regretio's. For those of you who don't know, it's a bar that sells bad shots. You pay for a shot, you don't know what you're getting. It could be vodka, it could be cooking oil, it could be vinegar, it could be anything, literally anything. Um, Typically they're actually okay. Things like sours, that kind of stuff. They're not trying to screw you, but the point is they can. So it makes it a fantastically entertaining evening as we put like a crown or two behind the bar because it's only 5 rings a shot, and we basically take turns seeing what we get. Some of us get some awful ones, gag and spit. The others are okay for now. But yeah, it was just a wonderful experience, and the actual bar has a family tree, and they refer to Uncle Regretio as this actual person. They show his family tree, how he's involved with their. I think in the league they have. Is it families? Oh, Chris, you should know this. Let's call family. Oh gosh, right, I'm gonna put my money on family, but I know that's wrong. Anyway, yeah, this Leash family. Um, explain where Regretio came from and his history. So as you're having these dangerous shots, it's actually a very entertaining IC history lesson. They delivered it so well, very very fun, and was a fantastic second stop on this bar crawl. And then finally we end up at Songs and Stories. We sit around, have a chat, have a drink, and then for the first time in Chris's life, I actually stay to the end of Songs and Stories. I always thought it ended at 12. I think it ends at 1 instead. I'm not, or maybe 12:30. At this point, the whole time thing has gone out the window. But the point is, I've never like since my early years at Empire, I sat around Songs and Stories and then kind of got into my own groove and did my own thing. But it was so nice to check in after like 2 or 3 years and see how much has changed, how many super talented performers there are, and also the song at the end where everybody pulls out their knives and sort of chants and gets close to the actual fire pit. I'm not going to destroy your ears and try and sing the song, but it's very catchy, and it felt awesome. Songs and Stories is possibly one of the best things in the whole of the Empire field, and this final few moments are the pinnacle of it. So very much worth going and hanging around to the end if you haven't done so already. And then at this point we time out, and I actually spend a bit of time chatting to one of the Dog's End players called Ben and Eden as well, and we're just chatting because we've only really met each other at this event. Like we've seen each other's characters around, but we haven't talked OC ever. We stay up until I stay up until like 4. They stay up even later. It was very nice. On reflection, perhaps a little bit of an error. Maybe let's not stay out until 4 next time, guys. But yeah, super nice to meet people at a social hobby. We clatter now into Sunday. Monstering. The Agara are a lot of fun. They are essentially human thralls of the Jotun, who are currently trying to fight to take back Bregasland. They've got some family history there. They're like marchers, but not exclusively or necessarily marchers, is what I've been told. But if you want TLDR, they're Jotun marchers. I can hear people getting mad at that already. Part of the brief is specifically no marcher bullshit. That doesn't seep to everybody who monsters. There's a little bit of it, and in my personal opinion, it does. Monstering is always fun, Like if you're Druze, you get to caper around pretending to chop off people's ears. Jotun, you get to make up this crazy long backstory as to why you're so mighty, then die in 4 seconds against a knight. And when it comes to Yagara, you can talk about the potato fields that you're fighting for example. Now, we we caper around, we get put on the front line to receive the charge of the Imperial Army. I mean, I'm literally wearing there's a picture of me again on the E3 Hots&Nots photo I put on Facebook. I think the bottom left one, I'm in my Yagara costume. I'm literally in a tunic, a bandana, boots, trousers, and I have a spear. Like that's it. That's literally it. Three hits basic, thanks to being a monster, and that's it. I don't die in a single battle because we actually give the Imperials a damn good spanking. We receive the charge, and what happens is, as the Imperials charge us, they don't charge in a wave, but they kind of charge in two prongs. So they hit two parts of our line very hard, but then they leave these huge gaping sort of V-shaped gaps in between. So, I take our merry bunch of Yagara, and we storm into this gap, and we start to break apart their line. And fundamentally, what happens is the classic Wintermark donut. We get two donuts. We actually have two entirely surrounded sections of the Imperial Army. Yagara all around them. Some of the Jotun Emu units, elite military units, hence Emu, are sort of scarpering around, dealing with some of the tougher opponents that we have. But yeah, we absolutely destroy them. You know what? We get a chant going, like a huh, huh, and the Yagara start to chant in rhythm. We start to get attack, 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 and we take loads and loads of ground. And we start to, we crush them. The refs, of course, step in to stop us actually crushing them OC. But I see we've got them dead to rights. They're just surrounded, and the Imperials surrender. I believe that's what I heard. I haven't checked the official results, so I could be wrong. But yeah, they actually surrender and they slink off the field. I think the Brass Coast lost 40 of their members or something like that, and we heckled them all the way. We yell at them, cowards, go home, blah blah blah, haha. You've lost. We're mightier than you. We're more courageous than you. Where's your courage? That kind of thing. And we know we're doing a good job because at this point, specifically a ceasefire, no weapons to be drawn, no blood to be spilt. One of the Imperial heroes knocks and looses an arrow at me, misses, but then gets condemned by his entire group. And it was just very cool to see that kind of RP kick off. Because of course, you've been beaten. You're like, oh damn it, this guy is just yelling at me. Fuck him. Try and shoot him dead. And it was a really, really cool moment. And could it be the end of Short John Silver, the Yagara? But it was not this day. There's another highlight here. We're going to call this Imperial Citizen Laces. They were a winter marker in a red coat. Now, what I'd heard from Redacted earlier on the Saturday when I'd been redacting was that they'd been caught out on the battlefield on the Saturday by Druze saying, "Oh, your laces are undone." He'd looked, and of course his laces were not undone. The Druze laughed at him, and he'd been got good. We decided to do this again, do this a red-coated winter marker, and we got him good. I believe there's actually an Oliver Facey photo of him flipping us off after the event. But yeah, we kept yelling at him, your laces, and pointing at our feet. And then he goes down, and about 30 Yagara at this point cheer, bellow, and laugh, and start to sort of dance and sing and clap, and it's hilarious. Like the guy you just see on his face, he's like, oh, god damn it. The people next to him in the line are like, damn dude, they got you good. And so yeah, it was highlight of the battle for me. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. After the battle and our glorious Yagara victory, and there's a couple of rituals being cast on Brenos, the Quiet Step General, and on Larkin, the not so newly minted, but still very new Mercedes Dance General. I think this is to enchant their armies with some crows. And basically, there's like 30, 40 people outside the military council tent. It's a big fancy ritual, very cool to watch. Cool bit of RP. And then at this point, we head into the end of the weekend. And at this point, I was off to the USA, literally the next day. So I had to pack and get out sharpish. So apologies to anybody who I didn't, well, say goodbye to on the Sunday. Don't get me wrong, I miss you, I still do. And I will catch you in, realistically at this point, 10 days, I think. How long is it until E3? Sorry, E4. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, yeah, 10 days. 8th of September. It's actually, first of all, thank you for getting to the end of this episode. It's been a long one, an hour and 50. The reason I'm doing it now is because I've only got, frankly, the rest of this week before I travel up north and get ready to go to E4. So time flies when we're having fun, doesn't it? So yeah, I pack up, leave, and that brings E3 to a close. So yeah, I would honestly say this was the most fun I've ever had at Empire this weekend. Um, I hope I can top it. I believe I will. But this time it's really about the players I ran into, the RP experiences, and the good nature of it all. I've used the word wholesome like probably about 1,000 times in today's recording, and it's because it's true. Um, Being a nice character and having nice interactions with people is lovely. And whilst I really enjoyed the crime side of ban, I'm really glad I chose to play a half decent citizen and engage with the game as intended, I guess. So I'm going to let you all go. Thank you so much again for listening to me ramble. Of course, anyone I've mentioned, if you're not happy with what I've said, DM me. I'll take it down, edit it out, all that stuff. I know I dropped a couple of OC names, so apologies. Um, but they'll yeah. So first names. I think we've run into each other before. I've mentioned you on other episodes, but again, as always, anything you don't like, DM me and I'll cut it out. And to the rest of you, thanks for all the support as usual. This whole podcast is trickling along nicely. I never ever ever expected this to happen when I made it. Gosh, best part of a year ago now, and it's mutated and evolved into something lovely. And well, I very much look forward to catching you all at E4.